us. We're really pleased the chamber is to be working so closely with the city. It's been a goal of my board for a very long time to tighten that relationship. So thanks for letting us present, the us being the royal us, which is me tonight. So, and it's nice to see everyone. Um, I'm just going to go through a few things. I have 20 minutes and I don't want to bore anyone, but I want to give you guys just a little bit of an update as to what the three chambers have done since this all started, since it's the first time I've like had everyone in the same room. I know that Mike knows, I know Rachel knows, and Arlena knows a little bit, and they've been working with us. But a couple of months ago when this all started, the three chambers, within like a week, we came together and decided we had to work as a unit, because we do have a lot of overlap in our jobs. So it's worked out really well. We formed the tri-chambers, and we had a whole program set out, which is what we're doing right now. So our first step was to actually form that organizational infrastructure. And then we set up a task force meeting team, the Montezuma Business Task Force, so we could have communication. And then we did triage, doing some surveys with our businesses and getting that information to you, the county, to be able to make decisions. And we have also been trying to do business as normal and keep people connected to our businesses. And our fifth objective is to start forging the future. So that's kind of what we've been working on over the last few months. And that's my overview of the chamber. It's me, Susan Lysack with the Dolores Chamber, and Maggie Goodell with the Mancos Valley Chamber of Commerce. And so we've all kind of split duties. And we might be looking at a tri-chamber situation as we come out of this. So that's something we're exploring. And we would, of course, explore that with our local municipalities as well before we head that way. But it's looking more and more like that. So that's update number one. Let me get to my notes. Did any of you, Linda, I had emailed you a couple of things today later in the day. Were you able to get those out?
I was. They were sent to their Kindles. I don't know that they all opened them, but they did receive them.
Yeah, if you guys haven't, take a look. I sent a link to our business response report, which kind of lays out in fine detail what we've been working on. And I think I also sent you guys the most recent survey results from our survey we're running right now, which is a SITREP, situation report. So we've been asking businesses where they are right now and what their future looks like right now, just to kind of fill. And I don't know if you guys got did anyone get that or look at it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there were, I mean, I didn't even get through all the responses because I just pulled it down. We haven't gotten a lot of responses, and I know why. People are sick of taking surveys. You know, I mean, they're tired of it. We've been, inundating them with give us information, and, meanwhile, they feel like they're kind of dog paddling there. So, we're hoping to get some more, but based on the 33 responses, I wielded it down just to 81321. It looks like about 80% of our businesses are open in some capacity of the 33 who responded. There is a loss of some jobs, but there's also a gain of some jobs, which is kind of what we expected. Right now, it's a little uppy-downy. We are finding that almost a huge percentage of our businesses who replied did get a PPP loan. And an even bigger part of them didn't go out for anything or didn't qualify for anything. So when you guys have a chance, just, I guess, take a look at that report back and we'll keep you updated on it. Did anyone have any questions about that report if they had a chance to read it? We really tried to keep the bias out of it this time. A few of our surveys, we're not professional survey writers. So we do the best we can. And so we're really just hoping that we get good information back on that. So, and if there's stuff you guys want to know in particular, we want to be the vehicle for that, to reaching out to businesses. So use us in any way in getting out your own surveys that people won't want to respond to, or at least, letting us know what kind of information we can get to the businesses from you. So the survey, I guess. And I don't think I'll go through the screen sharing thing. That's why I wanted to email it to you guys. Let's see. There is one thing I really wanted to update you on now that involves a partnership that we are doing with Mark Drudge, and we're probably going to bring John in on the city. Of course, he'll be checking with you, but we've started I guess you'd call it a branding promotion, the three chambers, called Love Local Montezuma. And we'll be launching that tomorrow. And it's a Facebook page, Instagram page, advertised page. It's being funded by Region 9 in part. And this is how. Some of that CARES money is Laura is asking for money on our behalf as much as she can. The chambers are funded by grant money and by business memberships entirely. The Dolores Chamber and the Mancus Chamber both receive lodger's tax, which makes up about 75% of their budget every year. I've worked both jobs, Dolores and here, so I know it pretty intimately. And then this Chamber of Commerce is not funded by any grants. It is funded entirely by business memberships at different levels. And so we're really working hard to try and keep ourselves afloat while still trying to help the community. So that will help a lot. And I'm bringing this up because I know that people have been meeting about the current infusion of CARES money into the community. And I really hope that you will look at the chambers of commerce as being worthy of some funding when you sit into those meetings. I'm just putting that out there on behalf of us and advocating. So let me see what else I have. So the Love Local Montezuma site with Kriya and hopefully John, we're going to be featuring a business 2 or 3 times a week, any business at all, in Montezuma County as a stipulation of the money we'll be receiving if we get it. And that will be focusing again on every single business in Montezuma County. So we're doing a promotion called Love Local Montezuma, but also behind the business. And so we're featuring the people behind each business in a very nice Instagram, Facebook post. There will be some giveaways, and that's where Mark comes in with a little bit of Cortez cash. And so we're really hoping that we can drive people to keep their money in this community and educate them on how much farther a dollar travels when it spends here and how much more they benefit from it if they keep it here. So that is what we are up to. And, you know, if you guys have any questions about anything going on or anything I can answer.
I had a question, Rocky.
Yeah.
You got 33 responses from businesses.
Yeah.
Well, how many businesses did you contact?
Lord, this thing went out everywhere. Susan is our data person, and she sent it out, you know, via all of our social media channels. We put advertising on it, and we have come to the conclusion, and so have a lot of other organizations like ourselves, that people are they're burnt out with answering that stuff. And so what we're doing through the Love Local is not just promoting businesses, but personally getting in touch with them, asking them for a little snippet of a story, talking to them, checking in with them, doing this promotion for them for free. So it's a little bit of outreach too. We think that that's probably more valuable. Which actually, can I tell you a little bit about our Biz Beat on the Street program that we run?
Sure.
Okay, Mike, I know that you've gone to a few, Rachel, I think Arlena. We've been doing this Biz Beat on the Street. Biz Beat used to be my newsletter, and now it's an interview series. And we are talking to industries right now instead of individual businesses. So once every 2 weeks, we're putting together panels of different people from industry. Last week, we met with 3 people from the RV campground industry. Lainey from Dolores River Campground, Matt from the Views in Dolores, and Lana, who runs a Circle CRV just outside Dolores, just to get an idea of what's going on with them. And they are packed. They reported to us that they are getting reservations ahead from right now. The top 4 license plates, we asked them, Arizona, Colorado was the top one. A lot of people coming in from the Front Range and other areas, those short trips. New Mexico and California. So that's kind of what we are getting tourists, and they are going to RV campgrounds, and they're filling up. And so that was kind of surprising. The other thing we learned, and they learned from talking with one another, was they are all experiencing campers who are staying longer. So people are coming here and settling in for a little bit longer than they normally would. So those interviews are really kind of, there's a lot of insight there. The next one we have is June 17th. We're having them every other, whatever June 17th is, a Wednesday, a Thursday, Wednesday. We're going to be meeting with the real estate industry, I guess you call it, market. So we've got a mortgage broker, a couple of lenders. We've got Bill Stanley, United Country Blue Homes, that Realty. And so we're going to be talking to them about what that looks like. So I encourage you guys to come on in. It's on our Facebook page. You can link in, but it is, and you get to hear directly from them. And Mike, I really appreciate, and Rachel and anyone else who comes, I appreciate that because they really feel like their counsel is hearing them when you come to that. So yeah, so that's what's up.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Were you able to find a way to help businesses get online? Because I think that will really help, even if they just have a web page that has hours, phone number, location.
That's what I think, Rachel, what we want to do with Love Local Montezuma is grow it to become that hub. So it's a little bit of a struggle because of the way we're funded, the chamber with membership, the value that we sell to people is giving them that perk of being like listed and all these other things, right? Because a chamber, for some reason, has become less about an organization supporting and advocating for businesses. And nowadays it's more like selling marketing sometimes. So it's a little bit frustrating. That's just where we've ended up. We'd like to move out of that. And so Love Local Montezuma gives us the opportunity through the Tri-Chamber umbrella to market every business. And so our next step is a directory, and then we will be offering one-page websites. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, because the thing we're looking at is exactly what you're talking about. The future, yeah, we need to we're doing this triage right now, but we know there's going to be a lot more of the online coming up. People are going to be doing that a lot more. Plus, having an online presence for as many businesses as we can really helps when people are seeking out anything, moving here, recreating here. We show up more in those search results if we have more presence on the internet. And so that is almost, I would say, our mecca goal. We talk about that all the time in our little group. So we are looking at a way to do that. We are developing a bank. We're developing a scholarship program, a business scholarship program that we're looking for funding for, which cracks me up trying to look for funding right now. But, it can be there. We're going to start with the banks to see if they'll throw a little coin into this bucket. And what we'd like to use it for is businesses to request a scholarship to help them get a website up and running, for them to get a Facebook page built for them or something like that, for advertising, to keep the advertising industry going. Any money we put into this scholarship fund will be spent back in this community. And so we're working on that program right now too. So we've got a lot of pots on the stove, but we've got a lot of really good, efficient people working on them. So I feel pretty confident about it. You'll see it start happening. Any other questions? I don't know. In the future, I was telling Linda, maybe I'll meet once a quarter with you guys, but I want you to know that I'm here ad hoc for anything. And that goes for my board of directors as well. They'd be happy to come and report to you. and they are always open for phone calls. And I'm going to send that information, all their contact information to Linda to get to you guys.
Thanks,
So,
Rocky.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Rocky.
Do you need me to stay here or could I go bike riding? I don't know how it works, Linda.
Hey, Rocky, if you could hang on for just 5 minutes, you gave me a good lead in, but 5 minutes after that, you can leave.
Okay, you go. I'll mute. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor, could I go ahead and proceed?
Yeah, the next one is an update on CARE Act and possible funding with City Manager John Doherty. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Yes, we are getting money from the CARES Act. The city of Cortez is getting in excess of $735,000. Right now, the city has spent approximately 35,000 of that. We have talked, the managers have talked about a little of that needs to probably be set aside for the second wave that is probably going to happen obviously in the future, but probably this fall, according to estimates. But that leaves a lot of money left that can be distributed around the community for anything that has affected businesses as far as COVID goes. So staff and I have been talking. We thought we would set up a committee to give recommendations to you guys with the chamber involved, John Brooks, Chris Burkett, Ben Burkett, and myself. If one of you guys or a couple of you want to volunteer to sit on this, to talk about ideas on how to keep this money local and go ahead and use it locally, we will be doing that soon because we have to spend the money by December 31st. So it doesn't give us a lot of time, but obviously there's a lot of need in this community and we want to get this out as quickly as possible. So if one of you guys are willing to volunteer or a couple of you, please let the mayor know.
I think for sure. Hey, would it be okay, John? I'd love to sit on that committee. But Susan, who really runs a lot of our data, I don't know if could she be able to sit on it too, or would you just, it's up to you.
To me, I'm looking for Cortez
That's me.
because
Okay.
Mancus and Dolores are also getting their money. And
Okay.
so they've got their own to spend. We need to spend ours locally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, that's really will help for sure. Any way we can. Please keep us informed.
We'll do
John,
it.
There's not like a whole lot of stipulations on how that money's spent, right? Like could we use it for like grants for businesses and
Yes.
things like that?
That's what we're looking at is
Mhm.
grants for businesses to get it used up here locally. But the only, I'm talking in broad generalizations, but it has to be COVID related is what they kept saying. It has to be COVID related. And that's
Right.
why we have such a problem. We spent a lot of money on COVID stuff in salaries and things, but it was already budgeted. So that's not a allowable expense. When we're putting up all police officers in the hotels because they've been exposed and are not comfortable going home, that is an eligible expense. We have a couple of misters coming in to decontaminate public meeting rooms and police cars, but that's not here yet, and that's part of the probably 35,000 that we've spent. So we got a long ways to go and a short time to spend it.
I'll definitely take some time to go read it. I haven't read it all yet, but I will.
And will
Any
this
questions?
will this money also be used to like fill that gap that we had? We still had like a significant gap in I'm trying to think, like we were supposed to like get to I don't even know how to say it. We had a gap though, right? Like
We
there
have
was
a budget deficit.
yeah, there you go, budget deficit.
But so far what we've been reading and talking with Patrick, it does not appear that because we have had a sales tax drop off dramatically, now it's come back, but no, we cannot use that it has to be after, I believe, March 31st to December 31st. And they have said, just because you're suffering for money does not make this a valid expenditure.
And
So
this is
go ahead, Mike.
this is green. Something I've been doing this up in Dove Creek as well, and some of the literature I'm reading is this has to definitely be COVID related. You shouldn't be looking at stretching the truth, because what's a little nerve-wracking about it is, if you remember all the loans that everybody got a few weeks ago, a month ago, and everybody was told they were going to turn to grants. Well, all of a sudden, people are looking at audits, people are looking at proving up what they did to government officials. And so there was a lot of after the fact regulation is what it feels like. And so we just need to make sure we document everything that it's COVID related. You know, the easy low hanging fruit, deep cleaning every facility you got, every vehicle you got, things like that, buying supplies for the next phase. I'm not sure, you know, what kind of grants you can give, but I'm not against it. I'm just saying we need to be careful and have contemporaneous documentation that it's COVID related, not something we play catch up with 6 months down the road when some federal guy's down in Ben's office saying, say, what was this? Because we're each going to have our own financial responsibility. And then I think it goes back to the county to be spent by committee. And then what's left goes back to the Fed. So there's going to be some oversight, but I haven't seen the final document yet because all the other attorneys are fussing over it. I thought it was pretty good the first shot through, but I don't know.
Is that number final on how much we're getting then?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Who's going to verify then that businesses, meet the criteria?
well, that's something the committee will need to discuss. We have on the council's agenda, it was added late, and I apologize for that. There is a, on this one, it was the opt-in that DOLA wanted to know whether we were going to opt into this program. At the next council meeting, we will have the MOU between the cities and the county on getting this money and how it will be spent.
And the MOU or IGA or whatever acronym we're calling it, and it's kind of funny, talks about the city would be responsible for supervising the money it receives when it gives it out and accounting for it back to whatever agency we have to account for it. So we would also have to return any money that somebody else said wasn't used properly. And by somebody else, I'm meaning whoever audits us, if that happens, checks us out. So we would be the fiscal agent, the banker, if you will. We would be responsible for where this money goes and whether, if it has to get paid back, the city's going to pay it back.
Yeah, John, this is Orly.
Yes, sir.
On that amount of money, is that for just the city businesses or the whole county? That's what I didn't catch.
The whole county got 2.25 million. We decided to proportion it out based on population. So I don't have written down here what the county ended up getting, but we got 735, and then Mancus got some, Dolores got some, and obviously the county would have the majority of population, but they got I guess probably around $1 million also.
Okay, that's what I was just wondering on. So that money, has it been delivered yet, or?
Yes, the county has it. We're just have to sign all the documents and then we can start working on distribution.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, are we finished with the funding discussion? The next item on our agenda is discussion on the Airport Consultant Advisory Committee with John Doherty.
Thank you, Mayor. We are looking for a volunteer to sit on the Airport Master Planning Advisory Committee. This is a committee that doesn't normally happen, but because of FAA requirements, we have to have a committee set up in order to do a master plan so that we can continue to move forward. The recommendation was the last time this committee met was 10 or more years ago. And at that time, it was made up of the airport manager, the city manager, and then I guess an engineer or something. I'm looking for a volunteer from the council to sit on this committee, a volunteer or two, and then have the Russ Machin from the airport also on there as an advisory to go ahead and move this forward. I see Russ is on here. I don't know if he's got audio on his computer or not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you want to add to this, Russ?
Basically, this is just an FAA required master plan that occurs about every 20 years. It's looks into the crystal ball of where we are and where we should be as an airport. And the FAA recommends 3 to 5 people on a selection committee to select an engineering consultant to do the study, which takes 12 to 18 months, package it together, pass it through the FAA, and then the FAA adopts it as a planning document. And all of our projects going forward from that time of adoption are affected by this plan. So we want to have a good job done and choose the good consultant to complete the project. And there's oodles of consultants out there that are knocking on my door already, even though we haven't gotten the grant yet. And we basically have to choose the consultant. They then perform the grant application and the scope of work, and the grant will be awarded next March, April timeframe, and then the study begins. So we just need to get a selection committee together to go through the submittals, which will basically be your UAR, what they've done in the past, and we'll go through the references that they supply and generate a short list for interview. And then once the interviews are completed, the committee will recommend to council the selection of ABC firm to do the work.
I have a question, Russ. This is Mayor Levy. Do you know how often the committee would get together to meet?
I would think 2 or 3 times. Once they can go through the submittals on their own and then draw up their own comments from that, then meet to discuss their individual comments and foresight. And then again to do the interviews. They can do the interviews one at a time over a period of days. They can do them all in one day, one after the other. It just depends on how everybody feels comfortable and what their schedules provide.
Are there any qualifications for a council member to be on this committee?
I would say it's just an ability to assess a firm's past experience. Most of it's going to come down to, I think, what they've done in the past, what they've done, and what the reference phone calls portray of their performance. So I really don't think it takes any special qualifications. I don't believe it takes an aviation background.
This is Green. Had a question. Do you want to do this, folks, as 3 council members on a subcommittee, or are you going to want to advertise for the non-council person and put some qualifications in if you're gonna do it that way. In other words, be a city resident, you know, something along those lines. Not anything complicated, not a PhD in airport design or anything, but just limit it to city residents because it is city money. Or do you want to do 3 council members as a subcommittee of council doing this?
Well, who's interested?
I would be interested.
And I'm not saying you have to do it that way. I'm just throwing it out as an alternative to.
I would like a little more clarification if that's possible, but I think I could hop on board that.
Because it would be, you'd have to put up with me.
That's not as bad as it sounds.
Well, that works both ways.
Did you say you wanted more than one? Council member?
The FAA recommends 3 to 5 on the committee. How you formulate the committee, whether it's entirely council members or a mix and match, is entirely up to you folks.
And would you be a member of that committee, Russ?
I think John has recommended me more of.
And how about Efrain Vaquero?
The same. I think we're there for support.
Okay. So we need, we'll have you two and one more member minimum?
No, I would think it would be, we would not count as the, if you want to call it, voting members.
Okay.
I think that was John's intent. We would be there just to provide information and guidance for the committee to move through the process. So it could be 3, 4, 5 council members. Of course, if you have 4, you could have a 2-2 vote.
It would also make a quorum of the council, so we don't want 4.
I don't feel like I know enough about the aviation stuff to be on something like that.
David
I also
expressed an
came in
interest.
too, but I guess I could learn, you know, I'm available if we need to. I'd be curious how much we're gonna meet and what that looks like.
Well, Russ, did you say it would be 3 meetings?
I said 2 to 3, and
2 to 3 meetings?
that's just a ballpark guess. It's really generated by what you folks, what the committee wants. I'm not going to set the agenda. The committee will set their own agenda, how often they meet and so forth.
And what's the deadline for this?
There is no hard and fast deadline, but we kind of want to have a consultant selected sometime in an October council meeting, which is 2, because they want to start generating the application for the grant in November for submittal to the FAA. The FAA has a very long, drawn-out grant application process, which will take 3-4 months. And then hopefully the grant is awarded March or April next year. And by the time once the consultant is selected or recommended to the full council, and the full council votes to accept XYZ company, that would be the end of the committee's responsibilities. It would sunset at that point. It wouldn't be a standing committee going forward.
John, are you going to be in it?
I can be either in there as advisory or on the committee. It doesn't matter.
I was going to say, because we got the 2 airport as advisory. I would like to see you in there.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like we might have 3 council members, John, David, and Amy. Are we good with that? Okay,
All right. I think that was long and drawn out, just thrown at us, and we figured it out. Good job.
That'll work for me.
okay,
I'm good.
thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
Okay, I'm bowing out.
Thank you, Russ.
Alrighty.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the discussion of 4th of July fireworks. John Doherty?
There are several reasons. I had a staff meeting last week to discuss with the staff their thoughts on having a fireworks display here in Cortez on July 4th. To a person, they didn't think it was a very good idea, and I will go into that. I talked with the county health department about it, and they were also not in favor of it at all. I talked with the fire chief, and while I can't say he was for or against it, he said his concern was that the talk was that I don't know who they is, but that it would just be moved out to the county fairgrounds. And his concern was, at least we water the grass here in the park, and that would tamp down the wildfire prospects. Whereas if it was to be at the fairgrounds, he has a lot of concerns about wildfires. I had John Brooks check around and see what other municipalities were going to have fireworks. He came back with a long list that said these are all being canceled. Grand Junction. At the time, I thought he said that Durango, but today Gunnison called and said Durango's back on. But the Mountain Utes, the casino, last week was on. Today I was notified that they're now not going to do it. They're going to try and find a different time to do it, or just not do it at all. Gunnison said that their parks were going to be closed, and they were going to plan on roping them off and only do high aerial, and hopefully not have a lot of people congregating. I have two concerns about the fireworks. One, normally what his budget currently is, I believe, $3,500. That has always been to take care of the insurance part of the whole festivities. And then Keenan Ertel went around to the businesses and asked for donations. Obviously, that's not a good time to be doing that at anybody's door right now. So that went by the wayside. I did get a commitment from CREA that they would give about, I believe he said $7,000, but it's still a shortfall of roughly, it would require the city to contribute another $5,000. But my biggest concern is, and this is what I discussed with the health department, you know, if this was a month away, we could see what the protests are going to do in the big cities on the incidence of spiking in COVID related spreading of this. But right now, my concern is having large populations in the park. They would be there all day. We don't have a lot of businesses open. So we have a lot of people hanging around the park. And as we've seen, let's just say half of them wouldn't have masks on, hardly any social distancing, because being the only one around, we would have a lot of people coming here to see the festivities. And so I just think my recommendation and staff's recommendation was just not to have it all this year. It's unfortunate. Another victim of COVID-19, but the hospital is not looking forward to any kind of large spikes at this point. They have no hospitalizations, and they would like to keep it that way.
John, I'd like to second what you said. I think, first of all, it's a financial expenditure that we certainly don't need to make. And also the health risk is significant. And I think those are two of the best reasons I can think of that we should not have it.
I agree with both of you there, because I don't feel comfortable taking a chance, because just to have it, because that park, I used to be involved with it, setting it up and getting everything going. And by early morning, there's people already in there. And it's, like I said, it's bumper to bumper. So I don't feel comfortable. I mean, I agree with you guys on canceling it.
I agree with that too, and I totally for years worked the fireworks. So sometimes people would be crammed in there so tight you could hardly walk through. And I just don't think with the virus out there and stuff that it's a healthy thing to do.
And a lot of out of town people would be there, I'm sure.
Right.
I'm agreeing.
Yeah,
I'm agreeing with everyone else. We all love fireworks and it's 4th of July, but I don't think this is a time or the place to be doing this, having so many people and spending the money right now. Amy.
I'm also agreeing with everybody, and I'm just kind of shaking my head because it's a really hard time to come onto council because we keep making these really unpopular, decisions. But with our fellow neighbor and family members in mind, I think the sound and very sad decision, because I do love walking down there with all of my friends, but I'm not even able to see my friends right now. So it's all part of this whole package that we're in right now.
Any other comments, council?
I agree that it stinks.
So tough.
So I'm just curious mostly, like I already know which way I'm leaning, but what's like the risk factor with like the far range fireworks? Like, is it more likely, like what's the percentage, like how much more safer would we be if we just had just those and just a very limited number of fireworks? And like, what if it was at the fairgrounds and people were just in their, like, I mean, we wouldn't be able to control it or anything, but like recommended that they stay in their cars or near their cars, and they just parked and watched. Just like thoughts that I've had. But like already there's an event that's going to be happening on the 4th of July there that's probably not going to be socially distanced at all. So I don't know. I'm torn. I think liability wise for us and financially for us, I don't think we should do it. So I'm mostly just rambling.
What about closing off the park?
And I was thinking about Phil's World parking lot as well. Like, could we have people park there if we could talk with SWICA? And the, I mean, it's not very many parking spots, but like the pull out, that's right there off the highway. And again, I think that would require a lot of coordination and like, I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, I think that I think on the heels of this, like where it sounds like, okay, in the park in Cortez probably would still be an attractant for many people. I'm also wondering like how do we prepare for the backlash? How do we prepare for people still showing up to the parks with their own activities in mind? Is that, I guess, do we need to talk with the police chief and see if they're going to be prepared for backlash?
Dean and Lieutenant Brock were both in the meeting with the staff, and we did talk about that people will still come, still be in the parks, probably, but bottom line is we're not taking reservations. We're encouraging social distancing and wearing masks, but of course, like anywhere, it's like they're going to have to take their own responsibility at this point. We're just trying to tamp down the crowds as best as possible.
Folks, and if you advertise this out there that it's not going to happen, maybe that'll cut some of your attendance. If we get things out in the paper, on the radio, on the internet, wherever, that may help.
True.
I think we have to advertise that this is going to be a non-event.
Ugh.
Okay, any more discussion? Sounds like we put the kibosh on this 4th of July celebration. Fireworks. Okay, the next item on our agenda is information on holding quasi-judicial hearings with City Attorney Mike Green.
I always get the fun stuff. So this is one of the most discussed and cussed topics. I hate to sound like a, what do you call it, catchphrases, but this is a very touchy, diverse opinion area of the law. You are going to start at the end of June. You're going to have maybe 2 or 3 marijuana new license quasi-judicial hearings coming up. We're going to be going into quasi-judicial hearings with Cluck stuff, land use. So things are going to start happening. Attorneys, when we really don't know what to do with stuff and how to tell it to you folks, go to a thing called Black's Law Dictionary. And we get some Webster-like definitions of what quasi-judicial is. And basically, there's 2 definitions. The first one is it's a term applied to the action, discretion, etc. of public administration officers or bodies who are required to investigate facts or ascertain the existence of facts, hold hearings and draw conclusions from them as basis for their official action, and to exercise discretion of a judicial nature. They also call it, quite simply, a judicial act performed by one not a judge. It's something of an adversarial process. It is different than legislating. There are, I hate this word, expectations, but perceptions, expectations are that you will make your decision based only on the facts you hear at the hearing, that you will follow, quasi-judicial things tend to be very scripted. So you will be limited in what you can consider. You will be limited in who can speak, depending on the type of hearing. You will have to, if you will, I think we did it in the last liquor hearing, and we did it in one of the other marijuana hearings. You'll have to follow a script as to how you make your decision. You have to make certain findings and things. It's testimony, not public comment. So each of the people would be sworn in. They would answer some basic identifying questions. Who are you? Where do you live? Those kind of things. The people who can testify at a quasi-judicial hearing is usually limited to the people who live in town, the people who own or manage a business in town, the people who own real estate sometimes but don't live in town, and the applicant, whoever that is. Some of the things that you have to be careful about, and I think you're going to be, when you look at some of the marijuana applications that are coming forward, you're going to have to start becoming very, very careful about conversations that you have with people about some of these topics in general. The marijuana especially, you may have people come up to you and talk about what you think is simple legislation, and they may be setting you up for decisions or what they would like to see when they suddenly go, surprise, I'm here with an application for a license. We will try and get you names of those people as quick as possible, so you can just say, hey, I can't talk about this, because if you have talked about it with someone and gotten information outside of the hearing, the time span in council chambers, you may have to recuse yourself. So you need to be careful speaking about, for right now, land use issues and marijuana issues. You need to be careful on social media. You're seeing some backlash on city appointed officials' use of social media. And you can't seal it off from the public. You may say only my friends or only a select few can see it, but that select few may not be as circumspect as you. And so you send it to me and I don't have the blocks or whatever we want to call them, and somebody else can see your comments on my page. So you need to be careful. Right now, I'm just going to be blunt about quasi-judicial and marijuana. You're looking at a sales tax number of $1 million a year. That, if you multiply it back out to from the city sales tax, which John is what, 4 or 0.45, something like that. That's a lot of cash. That's why everybody wants to come here and sell marijuana. There's a lot of money to be made. I really hope you don't get disqualified or have to recuse yourself because somebody all of a sudden says, well, but that's not what you said when we talked. So we need to be very careful. I sent you out this afternoon the 4 sets of rules with a short memo that we have. We have marijuana ordinances, which talk about quasi-judicial hearings or hearing content. We have a set of rules that was adopted by resolution. There's also a set of rules for liquor hearings, which is set by statute. We don't have our own official hearing rules. And there was another sheet, which was basically our rough outline for how to conduct a quasi-judicial hearing. Sort of, again, the scripting, the staging, who talks, when. Things will get a little more definite and particularized as we get closer. We are going to try and get you, I've taken to heart, some of you have said, why do I get all this stuff on Friday afternoon or maybe Thursday afternoon? You just messed up my weekend. I appreciate that. We are going to try and get you as much information about these hearings so you can read it before. I don't know of a real judge who would sit there and read it all in a courtroom. Matter of fact, they get real upset when you dump a whole bunch of stuff on them that they have to read and make a decision in 15 minutes. So we'll try and become more court-like. I would just be very careful talking about marijuana, liquor, and land use for the next few months with people. These are all hearings you've got coming up. They're all supposed to be made based only on the facts that you receive at the hearing. You, for example, shouldn't go out and drive out to the site and walk around, check it out, and, you know, see what you think. Quasi-judicial hearings, for example, if you have an opinion that this shouldn't happen, a personal opinion, can you rise above that if somebody meets the checklist? If they check off 1 through 3 and they should get that license or that permit or that variance or whatever, you got to make sure you can do that, even though you might have an opinion that says, I don't believe in this, I don't want to do it. You're not supposed to have a personal opinion when you're quasi-judicial. You're not supposed to talk to people about how you should vote or decide. Legislative decisions, passing ordinances, making policy, that's probably the best thing you could do. Get out there and talk to the people, you know, find out what's going on. Quasi-judicial, no, that is not the thing to do. You need to make your decisions based only on the facts or evidence presented to you. That's it in a nutshell. If there's questions, I'm always available. I may have to call you back on my cell phone or my office phone. Something that I know disturbs some people, sometimes it has in the past, is city attorneys do not like to do emails. Those emails sometimes get given to the wrong people when there's a Cora search or there is a record search, Open Records Act requests. And so if I'm giving you advice that is, we shouldn't do this because, or this shouldn't happen because, and somebody gets that, that could have a detrimental effect, perhaps on the city down the road. So municipal attorneys, on many issues would rather chat you up on the phone, because I can also get a better feel for what your concerns are. I can ask you some questions, so I make sure I'm giving you the best advice. Emails kind of limit you, and sometimes you spend more time backing up with emails than moving forward. So please don't hesitate to call me. I don't mind calls on the weekend, don't mind calls at night. If I'm asleep, you'll just get a call back in the morning. But I would rather talk to you before the hearing if you have questions, and we can chat then after when there's something messed up. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got one for you, Mike.
Sure, sir.
The way you described everything right there now, if they cross their T's and dot their I's, council ain't got no choice, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if there's, yeah, that is sort of, but you got to remember that list for different things is quite long. You're also supposed to consider comments from what we call the neighborhood. You're, in some instances, you're supposed to, like I say, this list may have more than just crossing T's and dotting I's, but yet there may be some limits on what people can say to you, what they can comment on. In other words, I you know, on certain things, I can't come in and say my religion or my politics say this shouldn't happen. I can come in and say, I got a house next door, and if you let this factory enter in here, they're going to blow smoke all over my new white paint. So I don't want this factory next door. So those things, yes, some of them, they're not crossing T's or dotting I's. They're facts you need to take into consideration, or not.
Yeah, but if they meet all the qualifications, and then we listen, like you said, to the neighborhood, so what right do we have to change the questions? Like if they meet everything, we can tell them no again, and pretty soon we're in a bind again.
No, you're right, Orly. And like I said, I just mean that there's a couple things that are on the checklist that are sort of kind of not quite as black and white to be able to say, yes, they don't have a criminal history. Yes, they have a site plan. Yes, they have a distance requirement, or maybe they have a distance requirement, or no, they don't. But the wishes of the neighborhoods, that one that's sort of, I just bringing it up. It's not a hard and fast fact. It's something you'll have to make a decision on.
Okay.
And we'll go down through the findings individually before we get to a vote on the final outcome. And, you know, what I was hoping to do was like we did for that one license. Hey, here's factor A. What do you guys feel about this? Do you find that they've met this requirement? And I think if I remember correctly, y'all voted on it and you said yes. The second one, did they meet this one? And y'all voted on it and you said yes. We got down to another one and you said no, and we went on. And that's pretty much set out in the rules and the ordinances if you look at them. That's why I sent them out today. So you have some time to look at them before, what is it, the 23rd or the 24th, when we're going to have our first quasi-judicial hearing of import.
23rd.
Yes, sir. Good. Good thing you told me, because I might have been gone and thought it was the 24th.
Not you, Mike. Okay, I was just curious on that, because if the council even had any authority to vote yes or no, it looks like the way you described it, everything sounded it was already ready to go when they walked in. So,
well, it's not.
So that's the
it's
concern I had.
There's going to be some facts that you're going to have to determine what is the fact. Okay, you're going to have a couple things presented to you where you're going to have to make a choice. Do I believe Green, or do I believe, I think it's Mr. White here? Okay, I'm just going to lay it out that way as far as the that one goes. As far as the other ones, there may be different facts that applicant says and Green says, or staff says and Green says something else even different. And you're going to have to pick and choose what you think is reality, or the best perception of reality, and base your decisions on that. I think, you know, Orly, as I think about it, you know what there's a step in there that you have to make called findings. And once you make those findings, then your decision, yes or no, at the end is easier. Yes, you're correct. But getting those findings decided could be quite complicated. Quasi-judicial hearings can take time because you have to break everything down into its smallest parts. So none of these are going to be slam dunk. Your days of slam dunk marijuana license hearings may be gone.
Okay, that was just curious on it. So I guess we'll work it out when we get our first one. But
yes, sir.
All right. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the council? Comments? Okay. We could open this up for general council discussion. Are there any topics we want to discuss tonight? Anyone?
I think we lost Sue.
Was she trying to speak?
I've got a question for Phil since I see he's on here.
Phil, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Phil, when is the intersection at the light at Hawkins and Main happening again?
Well, that's going to be the IGA. I'm still waiting for that for CDOT to come to you guys to ratify. And that's really what we're waiting for. We already have CDOT has, heard about our discussions and wanting to fund it. And so they're moving forward with that. But we, of course, haven't had official ratification until you have an IGA to review and approve. But it's on slate for this year.
Okay, because I feel like. Okay. What are some ideas then for us to spread the word that this is going to happen? Because I feel like it's going to be another median issue if we don't tell the public. I mean, can we put like literal signs at the intersection saying light coming here late 2020 or?
Do we put notices in the water bills that go out to everybody?
Absolutely, yes. We can do all the pumping out. We can go through John Brooks and do the social media, the website, the the water bills that as you had stated, and also we can reach out through KSJD or other local outlets. But I would say that that we should do this. It has been discussed, but I say, but you're correct. We should do a public outreach. But until we see this IGA from CDOT, given the current financial state of our state and CDOT, and there was a conflict between two intersection work being done, one in Alamosa, one here, and we came up with some funds to keep that 2 million here locally. Once I get that from there, from CDOT, and we know that we are locked in, that I think we should pump it out at that point.
I think it might also be good to, like, if we could put a little educational piece in there too, like what is, like, how much of this is being funded by the state or something like that. Because I think for like the median, a lot of people just assumed we just paid for it. It was all straight from the city, and nobody really knew.
No, we can absolutely do that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, Phil, it hasn't gone to bed yet, has it? Or they
No, it
started?
has been, and CDOT, that's why we had to come up with $225,000, because their project came in $450,000 over their budget, their lowest bidder. And so by us ponying up that half of that shortfall of their entire funding of the project is what's going to make it happen.
Okay, great. Because I thought they were going to rebid it, and I was going to say that it postponed it another year, but no, it's going in progress. That's good to hear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I still have a question
Were you making a comment, Sue?
I started to ask a question earlier, and then it's like my whole computer went blank. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're a little echoey sometimes, Sue. I think it's your connection.
Okay. Get an answer. I'm being approached on don't really much people. So I think we need to talk about trash day.
Trash day?
Trash day, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What was the part before needing to talk about trash day? You're being approached.
Some of the general people, some of the people have approached me wanting to know if we're gonna have the free trash day.
Oh, Citywide Cleanup. Yes, yes, ma'am. John and I talked about this earlier on, and given the current state of the health scare and everything else that was going on, that we decided to postpone this until, September is what we're tentatively planning on it, so we can actually do it after we come out of this and, get our community together and make that, something about positivity and coming together and doing good things for our community. So yes, we are going to be doing the Citywide Cleanup, which is the week-long cleanup effort, and then the drop-off location at Parker DeVita, as we always have, but we just delayed it until September.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Phil.
Great. As we're in general discussion, I've gotten a letter about a citizen in the city who is concerned about an RV pad going up in a neighbor's house and is not wanting a permanent RV to be parked in her view. What kind of avenue, or does anybody know where I can direct her, or just opening that up for any clarification?
What do you mean? Where are they parking it? And
so they live in the city on the corner of Livesay and Aldridge. And they're saying that the neighbor installed a gravel RV pad and will be storing an RV on the side of their house, which is right in front of their front window. So they're worried about it obscuring their daily well-being, I guess. So I don't know what the city jurisdiction is or what I can say.
the land use code talks about parking and hooking up and living in for a short period of time. I want to say 30 days, but I could be mistaken. And that's not allowed. We have some tension in the city and have had for years about where do you park your RV. Some neighborhoods, they park them on the street. Some they park them in their backyard. If they're simply parking it on their land, I'm not sure it's a problem based on the existing ordinances.
Thank you for the clarification.
Amy, if you wouldn't mind emailing me that address, I can have somebody look at it and just.
Oh, great. Will do. Thank you, Phil.
Through the lens that Mike was just speaking of.
Okay. Yeah, I'll forward that to you. Thank you.
It's got a hose hooked up and a wire hooked up. I think it's a problem. If it's just parked there, we'll have to think about it.
Okay.
Phil, were we able to look into the GPS update for the Chestnut Street, the Market Street at all?
Yes, ma'am. I did find an outlet where we can engage several software providers for the GPS and the driving assist that we're dealing with. I passed that on to our GIS coordinator, Doug Roth. And what I want to do is get that research a little better and then come back to you and then talk to you about what you would like to see as restricted truck routes. And of course, we'll offer up maps and we can discuss it at that point. And then we can move from there, whether or not you want to, restrict truck routes, and then we can pump out that information to try and stave off this.
Great.
Yeah, Phil, over the weekend, I've noticed there's trucks. They seem to be coming from the port and missing the intersection there in front of Burger King, Cortez Diesel. And instead of going and crossing the highway, they're going east into town, and they get about 2 blocks in past Notad Dene, and they start turning left to get back where they're supposed to go.
Mike, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I never thought about this. And I don't know why we couldn't approach the state patrol and maybe get a diagrammatic sign at the port. So when they're leaving, they can see, when you get onto this route, these roads are going to split. I think that would be a really low hanging fruit to attempt to get done. And I'll get right on that this week.
Actually went down and looked for a while, and I watched, and they're missing that left, whatever it is, turn lane, and they're going around. They get to the first light, and Siri is starting to say abort, abort, and they're looking for a left turn to get back to 491.
Yeah, and their GPS software is going to drive them to 491 at all costs. It'll keep saying, take left turn to get on your route, get on your route, get on your route, and that's what they're dealing with.
Yeah, they regularly go west in front of the office.
Thank you. I have a topic I'd like to kind of throw out. Social media. There's been a lot of controversy lately. I'd like to get some feedback from the council about what do you think? Are there limits we should place on council members and appointed members on what they can say on social media? There seems to be controversy every now and then, and kind of comes and goes, but I'd like to get some of your thoughts on that. Anyone?
I do believe that we should have some on social media. We are in a position that we live in a house. And so if on social media, the ways it but you can read.
We're picking up every 5th or 6th word, Sue.
Okay.
Can I throw something out?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
There's a fine line between an opinion, but it's personal, and an opinion that's, let's just call it your professional, your job, as a council person or saying things. And then there's a reason you don't see me on social media much. You don't see me out in public much. You don't see me, is because when I go, somebody always asks me questions. I have a habit of saying the wrong thing or saying the right thing, but it's not acceptable. And so social media is one of those places where I think y'all can have all the personal opinions you want, but it can create a perception that it's how you're thinking or what you're doing or why people don't think you should be whatever you are, an employee, an appointed board member, a council member, whatever. And I've been doing some research trying to figure things out. And the best examples, if you wanted to look at something, would be, I think our employee manual had us a pretty decent set of guidelines. We don't keep the employees from saying, I think the city's stupid, but we keep them from saying it on city time. We keep them from saying it on city equipment or city computers, etc. And we don't let them say, I'm, the head of whatever, and I think this is stupid. we don't accept that. I checked the state code of ethics, which is what you guys are following, or what would guide you in your ethical obligations. And there's very little on there about being an embarrassment. It's more malfeasance. It's more conflict of interest. You know, do you have some sort of an employment contract, or do you have some sort of a financial gain? And those are the things that you can get in trouble for. Not having common sense, that's not necessarily something you can rule and regulate. And the rules to get rid of somebody or sanction somebody or tell them they're wrong even, they're very careful not to step on your private right to say almost anything you want. And it's been a hassle over the years as things change, because there's not a lot of law. Things change too quickly, given the technology. So you can come up with some general guidelines, but if I'm on my own and I'm out there and I want to say this is whatever, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I hate this, or I love that, I don't think we can do much.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, are there like specific grounds for removal, like guidelines that you'd have to follow to actually remove somebody from like a board, or is it just at the discretion of?
No, there are specific guidelines. Malfeasance is one of them. Hold on, I had it here. I just happen to have. It talks about it's like taking bribes, being not unprofessional, but not able to do your job, breaching some of the ethics. In other words, letting your son get appointed to a position, using your position to get something done, improperly making a decision, when the decision should have been made according to these criteria, but you have a personal opinion that we need to do it so if this result is achieved, doing things for the wrong reasons, I guess is the easy way to say it. Stuff like that. But there's really nothing about having a poor personal life, or
a very strong opinion about stuff.
Yeah, just being who you are, which don't always look all that good.
It may happen to be the polar opposite of somebody else's worldview.
Yep, been there, done that, and why I am the way I am. It ain't worth it.
Are there grounds for removal listed in our code book, like in our code book somewhere?
Not really. They're in the statutes where they talk about planning and zoning. We don't have all the specifics that those statutes have, and those are in 31. You can, members other than members representing the governing body may be removed after a public hearing by the mayor for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. And then the governing body may remove the member representing it for the same reasons. And then the mayor or the governing body will file a written statement for reason of the removal. And that's at 31-23-203. So I don't know if saying stupid stuff made you unable to do your job because people wouldn't be listening to you or taking you seriously or whatever. That might be inefficiency. I don't know. I'm a lawyer. I get paid to stretch things, but I'm sorry. you know, that those words are loosey-goosey enough. If the facts fit, you might be able to make it. Right now, I don't think so.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Sorry to take up so much time tonight.
No, I appreciate it.
It's a touchy subject.
Right.
But Mike, if they're basically, can you hear me now?
Better.
Kinda.
Okay. If they're basically making the remark that they're a terrorist in the city, that's enough to incite fear into. Wouldn't that be enough, say, to at least have a chat with them about it?
You know what's interesting, and I make my living off words and semantics and meanings, and I looked up the word, and I don't think it's a terrorist organization. It's just a bunch of far left people, and I'm
I
not
checked
sure.
this morning on the actual like government list of terrorist organizations, and it's not listed there.
Well, it's not an organization per se, as I recall. It's just a classification for a group of people that are left of left is sort of kind of it. I don't know if it's socialist or communist or whatever, but you know, it's not a listed organization. I think some people have called it an organization incorrectly. Sounds like an organization, sounds like a real neat group to belong to in some ways. They got a neat name, but they aren't really a group. It's just a classification of a group of people who have a certain political view. Extremely leftist.
And it also exists on a spectrum of saying that I'm this, and then actually going out, like all the way to actually going out and doing terrorist like things.
Right. Yeah. It's the wide spectrum of everything from, hey, I'm just saying it to say it, to I actively participate in activities. But I don't know that there's a group that says, hey, Antifa bombed this church or did this act. I think it's usually some other group, but that was just my brief research.
Thank you. Before we leave, I'm going to bring up this notice again, the farewell thank you party for council members Karen Sheik, Ty Keel, Gary Noyes, and Jill Carlson has been postponed to Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. That'll be our next council meeting, and hopefully we'll be physically in presence and we can actually meet with these people and give them a short ceremony. So I just wanted to announce that before we adjourn. And if there's no more comments, I'm going to adjourn this workshop meeting. We have about 5 minutes till the regular meeting begins, and might be a good opportunity to do whatever. This meeting's adjourned.